Let's bring in our former Trump Deputy National Security Advisor, KT McFarland. Good morning to you, KT.
Good morning. What an extraordinary day, and we are in for a 12-hour period that's going to determine the future of the Middle East and probably the world.
What was your reaction to that Truth Social? The whole civilization will die. He doesn't want it to happen, but it probably will.
Yeah, I think that what President Trump said yesterday when he said we're negotiating with new people, and then in the Truth Social post, which you've just read, he said we're negotiating with a new regime, a changed regime. That means that there are pretty active negotiations going on. And then the attack this morning, or just a few minutes ago, on Kharg Island. Kharg Island it does two things. It's in the middle of the Strait of Hormuz, and it has military facilities on the site, on the island, and it has where all the oil gets offloaded from Iran pipelines and then onto tankers. So what President Trump has just done is he's taken out the military capability, all the facilities, the naval facilities and others, on Kharg Island, and all he has to do is turn the guns just a few miles, and he could take out their entire oil export industry. And as you've just talked about, this is like 50% of their GNP. This is the IRGC's piggy bank. This is how they make the money. And so President Trump is saying to these new leaders that he's now negotiating with, see what I can do, and in 12 hours, if you don't agree to my demands, then we could blow up the whole thing. And that really will set Iran's economy back, its infrastructure back. It could be rebuilt, and it could be rebuilt with American help, but it will put Iran in just a devastating position. So this is going to be the most bare-knuckle 12 hours you have ever experienced.
So, KT, there are some that are still saying that questioning whether or not President Trump means what he says. And the escalation ladder that he has just put in that post is quite significant. What would you say to those that think maybe this is Trump bluffing?
You got to start paying attention. You know, I've been in the Situation Room with President Trump in the first term where he had to make really tough calls. And it was whether it was military calls or others. He made the tough calls. He understands the significance and the danger of it and the risk, but he's willing to take the tough call. Do not underestimate his ability. He is not bluffing. He has got in place all the military facilities he needs. All the American Armada is there, the entire strength of the United States Army, Air Force, Marines, Navy, Coast Guard. We're there. And if you've just seen and paid attention on Easter Sunday weekend, saw that the United States has just pulled off a rescue mission that no other country in the world could even conceive of doing, much less carrying out. This is not President Trump bluffing. This is 12 hours that this new Iranian regime he's negotiating with, they've got 12 hours to make a decision. Do they want to end their civilization, or do they want to accede to our demands and then be embraced by the United States and the world community? Their choice.
KT, I was just going back and forth with a source right now through text message, and they said the President of the United States has tried to avoid civilians, casualties in this. If the Iranians don't make a deal, they may have left the president no choice. What do they mean by that?
You know, I don't think the president's not going to target civilians. He's not going to target schools or hospitals. That's not what he does. This is not what Americans do. What he will do is target the military facilities, and that might include military infrastructure. We've certainly taken most of that out, but it will include industrial infrastructure. Right. It will certainly include the energy and oil infrastructure. We're not going after children and civilians. Who's going after them? It's the Iranian government that's saying to their children, go stand in front of the power plants so you can be human shields.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, when I read this, I interpret this as there's going to be, does this mean that he's working with the good guys over there to work on a new regime change? And then he's going to go in and take out all the rest of the bad guys, the regime, the leaders that are still in office and we are still alive?
You know, what he said yesterday in the press conference, which is very revealing, he said, look at the mistake we made in Iraq, where the Bush administration went in and they fired everybody. They fired all the military, all the civilians, all the government workers, and then we had to occupy it and we had to run it. That's not what President Trump wants. He wants a change regime at the top, and maybe the top tier doesn't agree to the change. Maybe the second tier does. Maybe we get to the third tier, because also in the last 48 hours, a number of senior Iranian military and intelligence officials were taken out. We've got the addresses of everybody we need to take out. We are looking now for a regime, a new regime, a changed regime, or maybe the old regime which changes its mind. We want to work with them the same way we've worked with Venezuela. And that's why I think yesterday when President Trump gave his press conference, he kept talking about Venezuela. That's the model we want.
Well, and Katie, let me ask you, so there still would remain, this is going to be quite a remarkable 12 hours, but one thing that's still at the heart of this is the 60% enriched uranium. How do you see that playing out? Because what we're talking about is a very kinetic, significant bombing that is coming possibly in the next 12 hours, but you still have that enriched uranium at 60%.
And hardened. It's in hardened sites. It's not sitting in plain sight. So our demands have remained consistent throughout. You know, no nuclear weapons, no highly enriched uranium, no missiles that are capable of reaching the United States, keep up on the Strait of Hormuz. We're consistent about it. And President Trump's made it very clear. The highly enriched uranium is the critical part of a nuclear weapon. Now, if it's true that President Trump said they're no longer even, we've taken off the nuclear weapons issue off the table, that means he's confident that either they're going to have the new or changed regime in Iran say, okay, we're going to stop enriching uranium, we're going to turn over our highly enriched uranium. There will be a point at which, even if they agree to it, we'll have to verify that. You know, trust but verify. And we'll see how that goes. Do they let in inspectors? Do we have to have somebody on the ground who takes a look and sees, have they really kept their word on this? You know, this is not, even if we get an agreement within the next 12 hours, then it'll be the enforcement of that agreement and the certainty that they are following that agreement.
KT, always great to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thanks, KT.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.